In this video, I'm going to show you how to find the sine, cos and tan of an angle in a right angle triangle when the question only gives you two sides. So here's example 1. If you look at the triangle here, there's a right angle triangle with an angle theta. We know that this side is 13 centimeters long. We know this side is 4 centimeters long. However, this side is a mystery x centimeters long. So in other words, we have two sides and a mystery side. We are given two sides. In this question, we're being asked to find out what x is first, calculate x, and then it says hence, or therefore, find sine of theta, cos of theta, and tan of theta. So even if they didn't ask us to find the third side, for us to be able to find out sine, cos, and tan, we need to know all three sides. So let's do the first part. Let's find out x. Now, to find out x, believe it or not, you guys should know how to do this. Ignore the theta for a second. You've got two sides of a right angle triangle. How can we find the size of the third side? Well, the answer is Pythagoras' theorem. So we're going to use Pythagoras. Don't forget, Pythagoras is always there and it's always useful. Now, if it's a right angle triangle. To do this, we must label, because we know Pythagoras' theorem says that h squared is always equal to o squared plus a squared. We must label our triangle. So we start off with h. Now h is across from the right angle, so 13 has to be h. Now normally when we do Pythagoras' theorem, o and a don't matter. And in fact, they don't really matter. You could work it out either way here and you'd get your x. But because we're going to be using o, a and h when we do sine, cos and tan, o and a will matter. So which one is going to be o? Is it the 4 centimeters or the x centimeters? Given that we're using angle theta. Well, if you fire an arrow across or opposite, you'll see that x is o because it's opposite the angle, and then 4 is a. So let's call the x o and the a 4. So now we're ready to use Pythagoras' theorem. We sub in. So h is 13. So I've got 13 squared is equal to o is x to be squared, plus 4 to be squared. Now, when you do this on a calculator, 13 squared is 169 is equal to x squared plus 16. Now, I noticed with some people's homework that they submitted, people were making a mistake on the next step. We don't add 169 and 16. Notice there's an equals here. We want to get x squared on its own. To get rid of a plus 16 on this side, we bring it over and we subtract it on the other side. You know, when you bring plus 16 over, you're taking it away from the other side, because the opposite of adding 16 is taking away. So it's 169 take away 16. And some of you were not doing this. So 169 take away 16 gives me 153. Now, I'm going to rewrite this up here as x squared is equal to 153. Now, to get x, we get the square root of 153, and we'll put that into our calculator. Square root of 153 equals, and my calculator gives me a weird answer. It gives me 3 root 17. I'm going to use this weird answer. This is called surd form. Surd form. I'm going to use this surd form, but just bear in mind that if we did press the SD button, it would give us decimals, 12.36931, and we'd have to round it off maybe to 2 decimal places. And if you're really uncomfortable with surds, you can always do this in an exam. However, I would prefer if you tried using surds because they're more accurate. Okay. So now we can update our picture. We've got our first answer, by the way. There's our first answer. We've just worked out x. And I can update my picture. This is 3 root 17 centimeters long. Now, the question now has become a bit like what we were doing in the previous videos. So we're going to get sine theta. Sine theta is o over h. And because we labelled our o, a and h correctly, with the o being opposite, which is the way it should be, I just say it's 3 root 17 divided by my h number, which is 13. And you can try it out in the calculator. This doesn't break down. You could change it to a decimal, but I'm going to leave it in surd as a surd. Now, cos theta is a over h. And a in my picture is 4, so it's 4 over and h is 13. It's a much nicer answer. And then tan of theta is O over a, which is going to be my 3 root 17 over my a, which is 4. And again, you can type that into a calculator and see what it gives you. I'll just show you. To do that, I go fraction 3 root 17, arrow down and put a 4 in the bottom, press equals, and you'll notice it left it the same. But if I wanted, I could change it to a decimal. It's 3.092329219. So there, they are my answers for this question. Another example, example 2. In this question, we're asked to find the length of y, and then hence find sine a, cos a, and tan a. Now, people might get confused here. Suddenly they have a sine a, cos a, and you might think, well, a stands for the adjacent, but here they're also calling the angle a. So maybe we're not using theta or angle b here, we're using angle a. Just remember that this a is different to the adjacent a. Okay, so to do this, we need to find out y first. And to do that, we're going to use Pythagoras' theorem. We need to label our triangle H, O, and A. So H is across from the right angle. H. The O, I'm going to put opposite angle A. An arrow coming out of the angle. I'm going to call this O, and then this is going to be side A. Pythagoras' theorem tells me that H squared is always equal to O squared plus A squared. This time my H happens to be the Y, so Y squared equals, my O is square root 3 in a bracket to be squared, because O squared, plus 1 in a bracket to be squared. Now, please note, this is the first time I've shown a video where you have a square root being squared. If in doubt, use your calculator. You can go bracket, square root 3, arrow out, close your bracket, and then press square, like so. And then press equals. And up comes a weird answer, 3. Those of you who are able to think about this, when you square a square root, it's almost like the square undoes the square root. So the square root of 3 squared is 3. You don't have to use a calculator. For example, if I said, what's the square root of 25? You know it's 5. But if I squared that then, it's the same as saying 5 squared, which is 25. So the square root squared just cancel each other out. So the square root of 25 squared is 25. The square root of 16 squared would be 16. The square root of 9 squared would be 9. And the square root of 2 to be squared would be a 2. And you can check this out. But at the end of the day, if this is confusing, just use a calculator. Now 1 squared is 1. So now we get y squared equals 3 plus 1, which is 4. And then I want to get y. So how do I get rid of a square? Well, I get the square root. And the square root of 4 is 2. So I've got my first answer. I've just figured out that y is 2. And I can update my picture. So this is a 2 here. Now it's very easy to finish this question. I'm going to write the sine of angle A is O over H. And O over H in my diagram is a root 3 over 2. There's my answer. The cosine of angle A is side A over side H. So side A is 1 and H is 2. And then tan of angle A is O over side A. So it's root 3 over 1, which is root 3. And there you have it. This is the method we use to find sine, cos, and tan of an angle when we are given only 2 sides of a right angle triangle. We use Pythagoras' theorem first to find out the third side, and then we use SOHCAHTOA to write down the ratio we want. A sine ratio, cos ratio, or tan ratio.